Welcome everyone to this week's Mastery Forum. I'm your host, Randy Bowers, and joining me today is Lonas Group CEO, Shauna Naff. Today's Mastery Forum is Mail Merge, saving yourself time on your lead generation efforts. If you are using letters in your business and want to harness the power of variable data, you may have a lot more power than you think. Learn more about how to add great details to help your potential sellers sit up and take notice. Shauna will be illustrating mail merge techniques today using Microsoft Publisher and Excel. And now I'll be turning things over to our presenter, Shauna Naff. Shauna, welcome to the webinar. Where'd you like to get started today?
Excellent. Let me go ahead and move over to sharing my screen here. As we're doing that, I want to just talk a little bit about why letters. So right now in our country and in certain areas, there is definitely a shortage of inventory. And so utilizing letters in your business to target specific homeowners that meet a certain criteria is actually not a bad way at all to generate leads. So whereas some people who are doing like more farming, more long-term farming may do postcards or articles and things like that, when you're actually trying to get people to either list or consider listing because there's a special opportunity that has presented itself, that's where you may want to turn to letters and include some very specific information about somebody's property or about their home that is relevant. So for example, we're going to be talking today about we're going to be using as an example a letter for somebody in an area, and this is just a general area. We're just using one of our clients' templates. But this is going to be a letter that is geared towards somebody who owns a larger square foot property outside an urban area. So still within a driving distance, and not just a single lot, like maybe a 30 or by 100 or whatever is as a typical lot in your area. But in this case, this is somebody with a little bit of acreage, and it may not be a huge amount of acreage, but in this case, we've targeted somebody who's got some acreage of some sort out of town, so bigger than a single family property lot. And so what we've done is created, in this case, a letter that alerts the homeowner, hey, you've got this special property. You may not know this, but this is a very hot commodity in our market at the moment, and that could be because somebody wants a rural lifestyle but needs to be close to that urban center. I mean, there could be any number of reasons for that. So before you actually do the letter part of this would be an opportunity for you to take a closer look at your market and say, okay, what are the things that are selling? What opportunities do specific types of homeowners have? In some cases, it might be, Denise uses the example for ramblers. So if you are in a market that, things are moving pretty quickly, but ramblers are selling twice as fast for a higher price per square foot, that could be an opportunity for you to write a letter about that. Some cases it may be multi-generational housing. So if you've got a house that's got maybe 2 master suites, or maybe something that's got a casita or another, like a mother-in-law type of apartment structure, or something like that, that could be a hot commodity. Or it could be something as simple as homes with outdoor living spaces are just all the rage. So it's going to take a little bit of detective work on your part first to determine what are the opportunities that exist in the market. Oh, it could also be a certain area, or it could be maybe duplexes or townhouses or something like that. I mean, there are so many different things that it could be, but you've got to take the time first and be that sleuth and take a look at what is really selling in your market, and then craft a letter that targets that. Now, we do have a number of letters that are available in our Club Zebra Vault that you are welcome to go ahead and download and modify. So we've got some really good things in there talking about supply and demand. There are even, in some cases, graphs that you can then use your MLS data and update to actually show what is actually happening in the market, like comparing, okay, here's what most of the market is doing, but here's what homes that meet the specific criteria are doing, and actually showcase that. So that's just a little bit of background as to why this topic right now. So we have a lot of people that are wanting to have letters of these sorts, and so my goal today is to show you how to make, once you've crafted that letter, how to make it kind of easy to get that information out. All right, so back to my letter. Okay, so here we have a letter, and this is in Publisher. And as you may be able to see here, let me zoom in just a smidge. what I've done is I have put placeholders in red for the variable data points. And variable data just means that the letter will change based on what the things that go in there. So dear name, okay, that's an easy one because we know that's going to be probably the recipient name. Or I'm writing to you because you own a home in the X area. So that could be a neighborhood, it could be a geographical area. The goal is to make these letters very specific. So don't just say, hey, you own a home in the Highland Park area. Homes in your area are really in demand. Well, unless you can get some real specifics in there, then it's just going to be like a letter that they get from a number of different agents, because a lot of agents are kind of doing this type of marketing right now, but the more specific, the better. So we've talked a little bit about why is there a shortage. We've talked about the fact that there's more people moving here. You own a very unique property. And you even name and claim it. Although just about all sorts of housing are currently in demand, properties that are in close proximity to downtown, plus are on a large lot, are coveted by home buyers, driving up prices. And so then we have additional variable data. So we have the square footage lot, what neighborhood it is, the square footage of the house, the number of bedrooms, and then you can put in another information little point here about the area again. And then here we've got some proof. So we're making the claim, and now we're showing the proof. And in this case, this can be either variable. In this case, I've just put it into the letter. But basically, we've got some different properties that have recently sold, and you can see the difference between the list price and the sale price. And you can even put things in here too about like the list to sale price ratio, possibly the number of days on market. You know, any other pertinent data that's available in your market that you think would tell a great story. And that's really what we're doing here. We're storytelling about what's going on in the market. But feel free to go ahead and put that in. Okay, so we've got our letter. Oh, there's one thing I want to show you actually first too. So if you have a letter and you want this field to update automatically, this date and time, you just go insert and you go to date and time and then choose your available format. I like this format, and then just click update automatically. And it'll go ahead, and now next time I go in here, this date will automatically update. Just a quick little thing, not a big deal, but I've found that this is very helpful. So let me go ahead and save my letter. Okay, so once you've identified your area, you've written the letter, now you need to go and find out from like a title company or some sort of data information site, where are you going to get the information to put into this? So in our area, we can go to title companies, and they can actually supply this sort of data, but you can also check with like a direct mail service or something like that if you were in an area that doesn't quite have that same kind of relationship. Now, I will say that when you go and talk to your title rep or whoever is in charge of the data there, you're going to, they tend to be maybe a little bit more on the analytical side. And so they may have all sorts of different ways to pull data. They may have some interesting things to pull. So I encourage you to spend some time. This is not going to be like a 3-minute conversation. It's going to be worth your time to sit down with this person and learn a little bit more about their process, about what kind of information they can pull, about how that information gets to you, so that way you understand it. And this can also spell additional opportunities for you later as you're getting more lists. But let me show you an example of a type of list that you might get from a title company, just because when you first get it, it can be a little scary. So let me show you what that looks like. Hang on. Here we go. Okay. Okay, so as you can see here, you've got things from the parcel number, the do not mail list, so you're going to want to check on that. But you've also got the property address, the mailing address. You may even have all these other numbers like the different values and the different tax exemptions if there are one, the date of the last transfer, the value of the last transfer, number of bedrooms, baths. So I have a lot of clients who just get completely overwhelmed when they see a list like this. I mean, for crying out loud, we're talking about columns and columns and columns of data. So here's my advice when you get a list like this. You're not going to need all this data. save this list, but then do a save as and just start deleting what you don't need. Because if you just go ahead and just start click and drag what you don't need, right click, choose delete, then that's going to get your list down, and you can say, okay, well, I know I don't need this field or this field. Okay, I don't need these fields. And so then you can see your list just gets shorter and shorter and shorter, so that way it's a lot less overwhelming when you actually need to work with it. So don't be scared of all this data. Just really just focus on what you need. So in this case, for us, we need the square footage, we need the lot square feet, we need the acreage. We only need a few fields on here. So I have already gone through, and let me close this. And I don't need to save that because I have an abbreviated list. Okay, so here's the list that I've now whittled down, and all we really need is the first name, last name, the owner address, city, state, zip. I have added a column for neighborhood. In this case, that it did not come with one. So let's say I want to, the people that I'm targeting are in these two neighborhoods, the Sunset Hills neighborhood and the Aurora neighborhood. There may be an easy way to do this, or you may actually have to go in and physically type that in if you want to add that field. There are other ways around that, so don't feel like you have to do that. Let's see, I put the sale date transfer in there, left that in there. I've left a few other things in there. Here's my bedrooms, square footage, acres, and so you may not have square footage or acres, and so depending on what field you want to include, you may have to calculate the other field here. So in this case, I've just determined, I've multiplied this by the number of square foot in an acre, and so that's where I'm getting that number from. So if you need to calculate some, just make a column and calculate it. It's okay. Or adjust your letter so you're not having to do that. Okay, so now here are all my fields. And the way that Excel works, so this is in Excel, these are the titles. So owner name first, owner name last, owner address, here's your city, state, and you can rename these at this point. You don't have to stick with what the title company has put in there. So if I wanted to just rename this as first name, last name, address, that's fine. I can do that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to the publisher file. All right. So we have the Excel file and we have the publisher file. And what we need to do now is link these two documents together. And the way we're going to do that is through a mail merge. And they have mail merge for, you can use this, Word works in a very similar way. But now we're doing this in Publisher, so it's pretty much the same, but just wanted to let you know that it might be slightly different. The interface may look a little bit different. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Mailings, and we are going to first select recipients. So we're going to use an existing list, and now I just need to go find my list, and I happen to know where that is. Merge. Okay, Sunset Hill acreage. Okay, so now my publisher file is now linked to this Excel file. And what this is going to do is it's going to ask me, well, which tab do you want to use? So the tabs are at the bottom of the Excel file, and in this case, I only have the one tab. So I'm going to go ahead and select this tab. Now, there may be people on this list that you don't want to mail to for some reason. And so this gives you an opportunity to unclick the people that you do not want to mail to. In this case, I want to go ahead and mail to everybody, so I'm going to go ahead and keep everybody checked. But what you can also do is just uncheck everybody and then maybe only check a few people that you want to include. Okay, I'm going to hit OK. Okay, so now my two documents are linked, and now all I need to do is put in my fields. And so I'm going to start with this one. This one says name. And so what I want to do is I want to insert a merge field. So these are all of my different, hang on a second. Sunset Hill acreage. Oh, because I hid them. Okay. So I didn't, in this case, I didn't actually delete the different fields. I just hid some of them. So that's why all of my columns, so you can see here I'm starting with D instead of A. That's why it's showing up over here. So this is still going to come up with all of the different columns. So in this case, I'm just going to select first name, and then I'm going to do a space because it's going to work the same way as you would just typing. And now I'm going to select the last name. And you can choose whether or not you want to have first name and last name on here. You don't have to. And if you want to check your work as you're going, just click on this preview results right here, and you can see that it went ahead and put somebody's name in there, and then you can use the arrows at the top to scroll through the different people. Okay, let's uncheck that for a second. Okay, and now we want to go to our next variable data field, and in this case, we want to go to the neighborhood, which is right down here. And now let's go ahead and choose the square footage for the lot. Lot square foot. And now we want to insert neighborhood again. And then we want to do the square footage of the actual building. And that is, and then we're going to do bedrooms. And then let's go ahead and put in the neighborhood one more time. Okay, so now we have put in all of our variable data fields. Now let's go ahead and preview those results. And you may need to adjust the acreage to possibly round up. So it reads, dear first name, last name, I'm writing to you, blah, 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 blah. As the owner of a 38,332 square foot lot in the Sunset Hills neighborhood, you have a gem of a property. Combine that with your 3,070 square foot and 3-bedroom home, and you have a property that is livable and flexible. In short, prices for your type of property have increased faster than the market as a whole, and I wanted to inform you in the event you are considering selling your property. Here are some examples of recent sales in the Sunset Hills area. So you can see that this, just adding a little bit of detail, really makes this a very personal letter. I know as a homeowner, if I received something just general that says, hey, prices in your area have gone up, versus, hey, here's some prices, you may want to know this, here are the specifics why this pertains to your property, and here is the proof of what has happened in the neighborhood that makes this so, then I would be much more impressed with a letter like this, and much more, I would have a higher expectation that this is real as opposed to the other, which may just be hype. Okay, so now let's scroll through our letters here. Okay, and here are 8 recipients. Excellent. Okay, and then once you're done with that, you can just go ahead and finish merge, and you can either merge to the printer. You can also create PDFs depending on what print drivers you have installed. But you can see here as I go to the printer, so I'm going to go ahead and convert this, let's say, to a PDF. Here are my different PDFs. You can scroll through all the different letters. And so those are all done. So you just hit print, and it's printing the publication. So there you go. And then you can just print your PDF, or you can actually just print directly to the printer as well. So you could just put your letterhead in there, or just go ahead and print it as is, because in this case we actually had the letterhead built in. And that it's really that simple to do. Randy, I think that is all I mean, I don't want to make this more complicated than it is. It's really that simple to do it. So I highly encourage you to meet with the title rep, find out what kind of information you can get, go to your MLS, find the different shortages and the different opportunities that exist in your market, and then craft your letter, and away you go. So Randy, what questions have I got?
Okay, well, we do have a couple. We've got a little time for that. So here's the first one from one of our viewers. Shauna, will title companies just give this information to anyone, or do I need to know a secret handshake?
Secret handshake. Okay, well, I will say that it will depend on your area, because I know that in our area, you can go to the title company and you can expect to pay for this information, but it's not a huge amount. I mean, usually title companies will have like a nominal, like dollar value per name or whatever, and it's not like dollars, it's more like cents per name. So, but you're going to want to go to your title rep and find out, okay, what are my options? What what can you get for me? And if title reps don't do this in your area, then my next suggestion would be to go to a print and mail company or a direct mail company, you know, something like that, and see what you can get from there.
Shauna, if I make changes to the Excel document after I link them, like if I add new people, do I have to relink it, or will those people be included automatically?
Oh, that's a great question. So those people should be included automatically, but what you may need to do is, let me go over here. This may let me do this, it may not. Let's try John Smith. And we're just going to give him a fake address here, Sunset Hills Court. And I'm going to say Hillsdale just because we're just going to create somebody new. 98111. And this is in Sunset Hills. Okay, so we've just added John Smith, and I'm going to save this now. So now when I go back over to my file, if I go to Edit Recipient List, I might have to close this and reopen it. Let me do that. Reopen it. It'll ask me, do you want, the publisher is going to access the data. Do you want to access this data? You say yes. Okay, now if I go to Edit Recipients, here you can see here is John Smith. So then you're going to want, it did go ahead and click it, but you're going to want to make sure that that is clicked. You're going to say okay, and now if you go through the preview results, he should be at the very end, and there he is. But it doesn't know the square footage or anything like that because I didn't include that. So you will need to take that step, but it does maintain the linking. It just doesn't, it hasn't created like a, it hasn't drawn from John, that particular row before, John Smith.
Okay.
Okay.
Shauna, do you have any advice for people who are working in InDesign if they want to do some kind of mail merge with their materials?
There is a mail merge option in InDesign. I have not tried it yet, but I did just track down a video on how to do it not that long ago for a couple of our clients who are working in InDesign. So there is a resource for you out there. You're going to want to go ahead and just look up the video on how to do that, but it's it's about as simple as this.
Okay. Well, Shauna, thank you so much for this presentation. Any final words before we sign out?
Don't be afraid of data. And really, I would have to say, you may be fascinated by meeting with a title rep. I mean, they have got, or whatever your data source is, you may be really surprised at the different types of information that you can get. Let me just throw in an example really quick. So I had somebody who fairly recently was working on developing kind of a specialized kind of farm. So she wasn't just looking at a geographical farm, she was looking at geographical plus people who have lived in their homes for, you know, a longer time, like 15, 20 years, because she's got kind of a unique opportunity in her area. People are doing a lot of updating of old properties, and they're putting big houses on small properties. And a lot of those older homes are candidates for people who are coming in and buying those up and unfortunately bulldozing them. But in any case, it's still something that people need to know about. So what we were able to do is determine how long ago had the deed changed hands, what was the value when it changed hands, what is the approximate equity that is in the home now. I mean, so you can really drill down some very interesting things. And then there's not to mention there's demographics that can also be targeted. So I use this reference a lot, but people who like dogs, they can look that up. It's just a bizarre type of thing, but you can really get creative and find and target people who are maybe you know, like-minded or interested in the same things that you're interested in. So it's just, there's a wealth of opportunity out there. You just need to kind of put your brain into problem-solving mode when you're developing a marketing plan like this, and think about the different opportunities that exist for you, not just for the homeowners.
Shauna, do you happen to know if the title information for more rural areas is just as good?
Rural areas?
Mm-hmm.
I did do some research for somebody in a more rural area. It was actually on the for somebody on the East Coast, and it was a much different area than, like, say, Seattle. But I've also worked with people who are in more outlying areas, and certainly if your strategy, once you determine your strategy, you can usually find the data to support that. Now, I would have to say too that each municipality, different record keeping systems. I mean, it all goes back to how good is the record keeping system, which, you know, I have no way of knowing. But in my experience, I haven't had anybody get back to me and say, oh, this list was a disaster. 50% of the people on there were not as it was said on the document. So I've never had that experience. So I hope that helps. But it does go back to the records that are kept.
Yeah, I think that helps. And also, I'd let our viewers know, too, that a couple of years ago, we interviewed a title rep during one of our Club Zebra calls, and they had a lot more information about how all of this works, too. So I'll add a link to that to this recording after we post that later on today.
Absolutely. And actually, that interview is fantastic. That was with Nancy Birch at Old Republic Title. And she's an example of the keeper of the data. And you can sit down with her and talk with her for a long time, and she's genuinely interested in helping you solve your problems. So just make sure you're talking to the right person, the keeper of the information, who you're going to want to wind up talking with.
Yeah, that was an excellent call. I've referred back to it a number of times. Mm-hmm. Well, we are out of time here, so it is time for us to close things up. Thank you so much, Shauna, for all of the information that you've shared today. That's all that we have for today's Mastery Forum. Thank you to everyone for attending. We hope you enjoyed today's webinar, and we look forward to seeing you again at a future Mastery Forum. Have a great day.